Hey guys, what is going on? Lego Man wants to and welcome back to another video. Today I'll be reviewing the Lego Ninjago Jay's Thunder Dragon EVO set 71760. So starting off with the minifigs in this set, the first one you do get is Jay as well as a Viper Flyer. And I definitely think this variant of Jay is very unique with that really interesting sort of like a light green or a very light green mashed with like a light blue, and it really makes a very unique and interesting color for Jay, and I definitely think it suits him. And in person, I definitely think it looks a lot more better, but I do really like the design on his torso with like this pattern sort of representing like a lightning bolt. I definitely think that is really cool on the right hand side, and it does carry on to the back. And then as for his legs, there's not too much detailing on it. It does sort of have that belt as well as just a bit of like a light blue sort of like knee pad design. As for the Viper Rider, this is basically the exact same design as all the other sort of henchmen, snake villains you do get within this wave of Ninjago, but I love the design with just all that detailing on both the torso and legs. I definitely think it looks really awesome, and to actually see a snake in orange, I don't think we've seen in quite a while. I think the last time we saw like a snake in orange was potentially like way back in 2012 when like Ninjago was like first starting, where they had like all those different snake villains for like the seasons 1 and 2 of Ninjago, I believe. But it's really nice to actually see this orange snake design come back, because I definitely think it looks really awesome, especially with like the detailing on it, with like the new head mold they've actually chosen to use for these snakes, and the inclusion of like, I don't even know like what this is. It's more of like a play feature than like an accessory, but I'm pretty sure it's like some sort of like flying mechanism. I'm not 100% sure. I don't think they should have included, because I definitely think the minifig itself is definitely awesome without having that sort of like mechanism. As for the dragon build, when I first saw pictures and the box art for this set, I was really disappointed. I was thinking this is pretty lame and just a quite generic dragon, but after building it, I was amazed to actually see just how cool and awesome this is, and it just goes to show never judge a book by its cover. Compared to other dragons, which I think depend on like having enough detail and features to actually please a Lego collector like myself, I definitely think the simpler the better. And that is because, unlike previous dragons we've seen in Ninjago sets, which mainly focus on having enough detail and features to actually satisfy Lego collectors, I definitely think these smaller dragons mainly focus on having a very unique and interesting design rather than being dependent on having enough details and features. And that is definitely the case for this dragon, because there's really nothing too fancy with the amount of detail and features included. As I said, it primarily focuses on having a very unique and interesting design, as well as a really cool color scheme. I definitely think a dragon with this color scheme definitely stands out compared to like all the other dragons that primarily focus on having like 1 or 2 colors, whereas this dragon has like 3 and 4 different colors relating to like that sort of a blue color scheme. So starting with the head or the mold for this dragon, I definitely love the detail of like this sort of translucent yellow to actually represent lightning, as well as the color scheme of like that blue and this very sort of light green and light blue sort of mashup to actually create that really nice color. And I believe the mold is very similar to the other dragon within this wave of Ninjago and possibly other Ninjago sets in the past. But I definitely think with the bar and clip attachment to actually move the head or the jaw up and down, it definitely does look really cool. But I don't like how it like sort of lopsides like that. I sort of wish they maybe found a way that like once you open and then close it, it sort of closes together. You sort of have to like move it like that to sort of like close it evenly. but the body design is definitely quite thin, and that is fine because usually with like dragons they focus on having like a very thick and bulky body, whereas this one is simple and it is effective. I really like how smooth it is as well. Jay would sit up here, and then the design for the legs is very interesting. It has so many different ways you can move because of a ball joint, so you can like go 360 for like the feet or like the leg part, and then 360 for like the foot part. And the design of it is a very unique and interesting design. I believe they've only introduced this piece in this wave of Ninjago sets with like the whole mech design, and I think that piece works really well to actually create the footing for dragons because of like that very unique and interesting sort of curve it does have. As for the wing part, it's a very simple piece, but I definitely think it gets the job done. Rather than having another dragon with like wings coming out of like the body, I really like how it has wings coming off like the sort of ankle, no, like the sort of knee part of the dragon, and then it is the exact same design on the other side with like it moving like a 360 degrees. I also like the sort of like translucent yellow on the wings. Now moving down to like this bottom section of the dragon, it does sort of keep that really unique pattern with like that sort of really nice color that I have previously mentioned. As for the feet, it is a very similar design, but rather than having like that whole 360 whoops, I'll just quickly put that back on, but rather than having like that whole 360, it can only move sort of like 180, I believe, or yeah, or wait, can actually move 360. I did not notice that until I actually tested it out, but it can also move 360 degrees, and I also like how it has a very similar design, but there's a few different details included, which is fine. And I like how you can sort of have the dragon with like the feet positioned in any way to actually create sort of any which way you want to design, and I definitely think that is really cool. Unlike other dragons that sort of have, if you sort of position the dragon in one way, it's going to be like lopsided. You have to be very careful with like the big dragons because they have a specific way to actually stand, whereas the smaller dragons, you can sort of position them anyway. As for the tail, this can also move 360 degrees at the top part as well as the bottom part, down this part down here, as well as like this sort of back part of the tail, which has a very interesting design to it. I'm not too sure like what that sort of like part down here is, but I like the inclusion of it to sort of like end off the tail. As for the color scheme, the only thing I don't like about the dragon is with like the ball joints and like all the different parts to actually make the sort of dragon move with like the head, the feet, and the tail. I just wish they changed the color for the ball joints. It would make the dragon stand out a lot more better, as well as making it look complete, because having it in like dark grey, light grey, it just looks so unfinished and just really doesn't look nice because it's just a really wacky design. You'll have like this blue here and then all of a sudden like this dark and light grey. It just really doesn't look good, but having like the ball joints in a different color would just look so much better. Now moving on to the packaging for this set. Starting off with the box, it does have a really interesting box art to it with like this sort of anime slash cartoony inspired design, and I definitely think it fits for this wave of Ninjago sets. Then on the back, it does have a really interesting concept of like designing your own version of the dragon rather than actually following these steps to actually create the dragon that is promoted on the front of the box. And I definitely think a concept like this for Ninjago is quite an interesting idea, as well as quite a cool one, because it really shows that like you don't have to just follow the instructions, or you don't have to like follow what Lego are telling you to do. So you can sort of create your own dragon, which it does sort of show there, which I think is a really nice idea. And with all the different ball joints and like how you can detach parts, it does make it a lot more easier. And then the manual, I must say, I was not expecting a manual to be this size, but it does, I believe, show some advertisements for the other. No, it actually doesn't show advertisements for the Ninjago set. My mistake, but it does show at the back this really nice animation of like the dragon attacking the viper flyer. But apart from that, I would definitely love to hear your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below about this dragon, because this is an example of an Ninjago set where you don't judge the book by its cover, because this just shows that LEGO can actually create really interesting and unique dragons. So, as always, guys, hope you guys did enjoy this video, and in case you so, goodbye!